Now that we have posable hands, it's time to add a climbing function to our character. In the workspace, create a folder and name it Climbable. Next, create a part and design it to make it look like a wall. It's time to get to scripting. In the VR local script, when one of the bumpers is pressed, we'll use this code to get parts that are near the hand. The thing is, this might also detect the player character, and we don't want that. So instead, we can make a raycast parameter to make it so that the parts in the climbable folder are the only parts being detected. Let's apply the radius parameters by placing it as the last argument of the getPartsBoundInRadius function. Now, in the player module script, create these variables that we'll use later for our climbing functions. Back in the VR local script, make a function and set up these variables. We'll use the climb offset to prevent the hand from snapping to the center of the object. Above the function, set up a nil variable. Then, initialize a heartbeat connection using that nil variable. We'll disconnect the heartbeat connection if the hands do not exist or if both hands have stopped climbing. Let's continue coding the heartbeat connection. We'll use this code to calculate the movement of the climbing. Before we continue, let me explain what our code does. When using to world space on the C-frame of the part we are climbing on, our hand will act as if it's the origin of the world. And again, if it were not for the climb offset argument, our hand would have snapped to the center of the object. In order for the character to move too, we'll manually position it by subtracting the current C-frame of the character, or the primary part from the movement vector. The movement vector calculates the direction of the hand between the part that is being climbed on. Using subtraction, we reverse the direction. So, if the hand moves down, the character moves up, just like how vaulting works. The thing is, this will only work for one hand. Let's make a code to climb with both hands. Now, when two hands climb, we'll combine their movement vectors and find the middle between them. That way, the character will stay in the middle between the two hands. Now, let's make a function to let go of whatever we are climbing on. Reset these variables' values. We'll call this function whenever one of our hands stops climbing. So, let's check if both hands are already not climbing to disconnect the heartbeat connection safely. Back in the input_begin event, insert the onHand climb function in the for loop, and in the input_ended event, call the onHand let go function. So, with the code we have now, we will be able to climb, but the player will jitter because of gravity. To fix this, set up this variable. Now at the end of the onCharacterAdded function, create a body velocity object and parent it to the player character's primary part. In the onHand climb function, if the character just started climbing, set the body velocity's max force to math.huge to negate gravity. Next, in the onHandLetGo function, once the player stops climbing, we'll make the body velocity's max force back to default. With the code we have now, the player will be able to climb and let go smoothly, but let's add one more mechanic, where the player can launch themselves by boosting. To implement this, set up these variables. Back in the climbing heartbeat connection, we'll use the variables we created to save the movement vector with a timer. You can set this timer to your liking, but I'll set mine to 0 for simpler testing. Now, in the onHandLetGo function, use applyImpulse and use the previous movement vector, but reversed as the direction. But since our hands will grip a climbable part, they shouldn't move or rotate. So in the calculateHand C-frame function, we will only move the mesh hand if it's not climbing. Before we test, let's parent our wall to the climbable folder. Now let's test our climbing functions. When we go to our wall and press the VR controller's bumpers while our hand is near it, we can see that we are able to move ourselves using our hands. We can look around while climbing too. Now, let's try something different. Instead of the entire wall being climbable, let's add smaller parts of the wall to be climbable. In the properties of the climbable part, set its size to 1 and parent it to the climbable folder. Make it so it does not collide or touch. But make sure Can Query is set to true so it can be detected by the hand's raycast. Lastly, set Anchor to true. Now, duplicate the climbable part and scatter them all over our wall. Let's try climbing our new wall. We are able to climb on the climbable parts that we have scattered. And if we try gripping on the wall, the player won't climb on it, unlike when we grab one of the climbable parts again.